back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, September 6th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat for you that I will acknowledge during the live broadcast. And it just makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, and any contribution that you guys can make to the show means the world to us. And then also the alternative way to help out the show is by going to the link, gsmcpodcast.net, which is displayed at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, I'll start off the show by recapping last night's thrilling game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Chiefs narrowly defeating the Ravens 27-20, and we'll get into all that. We'll break the whole game down in just a second. And then the rest of the show is just previews for the weekend. Second part of the show, we'll preview tonight's game in Brazil between the Packers and the Eagles. Then in the third part of the show, we'll take a look at some of the big college football matchups tomorrow, including Texas-Michigan. That's one game that I'm really want to pay attention to. And also we'll preview the early slate of games on Sunday as well. So that'll be a combination segment. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll take a look at the late window games for Sunday, particularly the Cowboys and the Browns. And then in the final part of the show, we'll preview the Sunday night game between the Lions and the Rams. So that's what's on tap for today, all previews. And that's when you know we're back. So let's get into the first topic, which is recapping last night's epic matchup between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Now, this game did not start on time because there was lightning in the area. Weather wasn't great in the very beginning, but cleared up. So the game ended up starting at 8:40 Eastern time. And the Ravens got the ball to start the game, and they went 11 plays, 70 yards in almost 7 minutes of time possession down the field, and Derrick Henry got his first touchdown with the Ravens. And you thought, oh man, Derrick Henry's going to have a game. But yeah, that was his only touchdown of the night. But yeah, I think he ended up only finishing with, 46 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He had 13 carries last night. Now, on that first drive, though, the Ravens were getting called for multiple illegal formations. And those weren't the only illegal formations of the game. That was getting called all night. John Harbaugh looked like he was going to lose it. On third down, it looked like, the Chiefs were going to get off the field. But there was another illegal formation, I believe, on that play. But there was also pass interference. So those got canceled out. Those canceled each other out, and the Ravens got a chance to get a third down. They converted Zay Flowers connected with, or Lamar Jackson connected with Zay Flowers for a 19-yard gain. Well, that was because there was also a pass interference on that drive too, I believe. But yeah, so Lamar connected with Zay Flowers for a big play, and then Derrick Henry, of course, finished it off. But then the Chiefs went right down the field on their first drive. 5 plays, 67 yards. Beautiful end-around play that they called. The blocking was great for Xavier Worthy, and he scored his first touchdown of the night from 21 yards out. Rashee Rice made a couple of big plays on that drive. A lot of underneath routes with Rashee Rice in this game. He finished with 103 yards on the game. But yeah, then both teams punted. The Ravens then ended up fumbling on their first drive of the second quarter. Sack fumble. Chiefs then kicked a field goal. Then the Ravens turned it over on downs. Chiefs turned that into a field goal. So the Ravens did a good job at keeping this game close, because this game really could have got out of hand early, but the Ravens defense was able to keep it close, and the Chiefs were only kicking field goals. Then Justin Tucker did something he doesn't do often, and that's miss a field goal, a 53-yard field goal. Again, more illegal formation penalties. Delay of game penalty was on that drive as well. But yeah, then Chiefs get the ball after the missed field goal, and Mahomes throws a pick right away. So then Justin Tucker redeems himself. They get into field goal range, and he kicks a 25-yard field goal. Now, the Ravens could have got 7 points on that drive. Justice Hill was wide open for a walk-in touchdown, but the linebacker on the Chiefs, I forget the player's name, but he knocked it down, and that resulted in the Ravens having to kick a field goal. So Chiefs could have been losing at the half, but it was 13-10 at the half. Chiefs opened up the second half with a touchdown. Another big play to Rashee Rice for 33 yards, then Justin Watson for 25 yards, and then Isaiah Pacheco from 1 yard out scores a touchdown. And the Chiefs were up by 10. Both teams then exchanged punts, and then Lamar Jackson, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, connected with Isaiah Likely for a 49-yard touchdown. And this was on 2nd and 17. The Ravens again got backed up. There was a holding call. He had a big run for 29 yards, and it got called back for holding. Then it was 1st and 20. And then, he ran for 3 yards to make it 2nd and 17, and then he scrambled out, threw it to Likely. Yeah, bad positioning by the Chiefs secondary. And Likely was able to take it in for a touchdown. He had a monster game. So then that made it 20-17. Then the Chiefs scored a touchdown. They responded. Xavier Worthy with his second touchdown of the game, 35 yards out. That made it 27-17. Then the Ravens, they answered with a field goal drive. Justin Tucker from 32 yards out. Then the Chiefs got the ball back. The Ravens were able to get it back with some time left. Mahomes almost threw a pick. It got deflected in the air, and he had to catch his own pass. Then the Ravens get the ball back with just under 2 minutes, and they go the length of the field. And Lamar Jackson missed a wide-open Zay Flowers for a touchdown. Then the next play, Isaiah Likely scores a touchdown. And a little bit before that, he got hurt, and it looked like he was, done for the game, but came back in because he landed awkwardly. It looked like the injury was significant, but he was able to come back in, scored a touchdown like we thought, and John Harbaugh was holding up, the 2 fingers like they were going to go for 2. They reviewed the play, and his foot was just out of bounds. So they called it back, and that was how the game ended. Chiefs win 27-20. So some of my takeaways from the game, well, first of all, the refs are really calling those illegal formation penalties on the Ravens, particularly on Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle. But their offensive line did struggle last night. And They got some young guys that they're trying to work in. And, Lamar Jackson was really fired up on the sidelines early on in the game, with the line after the sack fumble. So that's something that they're going to have to, work on. Also, I know, listen, Mark Andrews has had a tough, 6 months or whatever it is, because had a season-ending injury, and then he was involved in a car accident. But, so he's trying to get himself back into shape. But, I feel like he looked like he lost a step last night. And the thing is, you don't want to overreact to these kinds of things. As Ask MDJ just subscribed to us, we appreciate that. But I don't want to overreact. But Isaiah Likely looked like the tight end one last night. I mean, he was unbelievable. That's another takeaway. He was a monster in this game. But for me, like Mark Andrews, we'll see. It was just one game, but there was that play where he had a clear first down and he just fell down to the ground. I don't know if he just slipped, but Isaiah Likely looked like the tight end one last night. And then another thing with the Ravens, they need another receiver. They need another playmaker, because I feel like Zay Flowers is a good player. They paid Rashad Bateman this offseason. They got Nelson Aguilar, but I feel like they need somebody else. And I was thinking last night, I don't think this is going to happen, but, if the Raiders fall out of it, we've been hearing all these rumors about Devontae Adams. What if the Ravens are a team that could possibly trade for him? I don't know. That's just something I thought of. But they need another playmaker on that offense. But Lamar Jackson was unreal last night in this game. He was their leading rusher. He ended up finishing with 122 yards rushing, 273 yards passing, and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had 9 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown. Roquan Smith had that interception off of Mahomes, which was bad. Mahomes finished 291 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Isaiah Pacheco had a touchdown for 45 yards. Rashee Rice was the leading receiver, 7 receptions for 103 yards. Very entertaining game. Also for the Chiefs, it was also because they were tired. You could see it, especially on that last drive. The back end did struggle a little bit. Also, it just didn't help that Lamar Jackson was running all over the place. He was getting big chunk yardages with some of his scrambles. So the Chiefs' defense was gassed. Xavier Worthy, that's why the Chiefs traded with the Bills in the draft to get him. He looked really good. Rashee Rice looked good. Kelsey didn't have a big game, but he'll have his. It's not concerning, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be the last time we see these two teams. I think we're going to see another matchup down the line. But yeah, the Ravens were that close with that touchdown, and they would have went for 2, and who knows what would have happened. Would they have gotten it? Maybe. And then we're having a different conversation. But it was a very entertaining game. Great way to start off the season. Let's see what tonight brings. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were some of your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our first break. And then when we come back, we will discuss the Brazil game tonight between the Eagles and the Packers. So with that being said, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it losing it. The noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to now talk about the game tonight in Brazil between the Packers and the Eagles. And it's going to be really hard to beat this game from last night between the Chiefs and the Ravens, because that was, I mean, what a way to open up the season. And there's a lot more that I wanted to say about that game, and we'll continue those discussions, next week. But let's get into this game now. So last year, of course, the Packers, roller coaster of a season for them. They started off good, then they had their middle of the season struggles. Jordan Love was not playing well, and then something clicked, and Jordan Love was playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Packers were able to make the playoffs at 9-8. They beat the Cowboys, and, they had the 49ers on the ropes, but, fell a little bit short there. And ultimately, they got eliminated. And here we are now again. And with the Eagles, they started off 10-1, and they played the 49ers late in the season. And that was like a soul crusher. And that just like changed the momentum of the entire season for them. Now, they were still kind of struggling here and there, but they were still winning games. I mean, the only game they lost was against the Jets, which they kind of gave that game away. But that was the only game they lost. But then they played the 49ers and they got absolutely stomped. And that kind of led to a collapse. They still made the playoffs, but Dallas ended up winning the division over them. They played the Bucs again. They played the Bucs early on in the season, and they beat them. But in the playoffs, it was a horrendous performance, to say the least. And they got eliminated. But now, going into this season for the Packers, they made some changes. You bring in Josh Jacobs as your new starting running back. Need a big game out of him tonight in fantasy. And then for the Eagles, they made a lot of changes too. Well, also with the Packers, they changed defensive coordinators. No more Joe Barry. For the Eagles, they changed coordinators. Made a lot of additions on the defensive side of the ball. They brought in Saquon Barkley. I think this game is going to be a lot of fun, what we're about to watch tonight. Especially with the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, I think, are going to both make some plays. I think, for me, the things I want to keep an eye on, how the Eagles' defense looks, because, they drafted a couple of corners. They brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They also brought in Devin White, and they signed Bryce Huff from the Jets. I want to see how this defense looks. I also want to see how the running backs are. How is Saquon Barkley going to look with the Eagles? I mean, I think he's going to have a big year. And Josh Jacobs, what is he going to look like with the Packers? That's another thing I want to, keep an eye on in tonight's game. And then obviously, the quarterbacks. How are the quarterbacks going to look? Can Jordan Love repeat what he did towards the end of the year? Can he take that and do it over the course of a full season? And I think he will. I think he's going to have a really good season. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to bounce back. Now, the one thing you think about is this collapse last year happened when you had guys like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce in the locker room. Now those guys are not there. So how How is their absence going to impact this team? I think it will, but, are they going to be able to overcome that? Because, Jason Kelce, and Fletcher Cox, those were staples for this team. And they're not there anymore. And, I did some segments on the Eagles and that Jalen Hurts and some other guys in the locker room are going to step up and take on those leadership roles. Saquon Barkley, one of those guys too. So that's something else to keep an eye on throughout the season. But like I said, how are the defenses going to look? Because, again, the Packers have a new defensive coordinator. There's a lot to pay attention to tonight. Now, in terms of, some of the betting stuff, so on CBS, right now, the line is changed. It opened up as a pick'em. Right now, the Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. And I'll be honest, I am kind of leaning towards the Eagles in this game tonight. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I don't know if it's going to match the drama that we saw last night. But I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. I think both quarterbacks are going to play well. They're going to make their fair share of plays. Also, the Packers receiving corps. Who out of those young guys is going to have a big game tonight? Because last year, it just seemed like it was a new guy each week. Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. Can Christian Watson stay healthy? Because I feel like if Christian Watson stays healthy, he's going to be the best receiver on this team. That's another thing to pay attention to. Right now, also, when it comes to money line, Packers are plus 115, Eagles are minus 135, and then the over/under is 48.5 right now. And most people are taking the over. Again, this is how CBS has it. Like I said, I'm leaning towards the Eagles. But I think it's gonna be a really good game. I think. And the Eagles are one of those teams. They're trying to get themselves back to being, at the top as one of the top teams in the NFC, because that's what they were for the last couple of years, making it to the Super Bowl, and then when they started off 10-1, then once that went away, and they collapsed, well, they weren't considered that anymore. But this team has just loads of talent. And, there's pressure on Nick Sirianni to do well. Because you hear it in the media. If he doesn't do well, he's gone. If the Eagles miss the playoffs, he's not coming back. And it definitely was interesting that despite making the playoffs, making it to the Super Bowl in his second year as a head coach, because of how bad last year went, there were people calling for his job. And some people say, well, it's because he's not fully running the offense. It's because you had two great coordinators the first year, his second year, when they made it to the Super Bowl, and they left, and things changed. They went from Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon to Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. And it just did not... The offense took a step back and the defense wasn't good. Because in 2022, you had multiple guys, more than just two guys with double-digit sacks. You didn't have that last year. So, there is definitely some pressure on Nick Sirianni. I mean, they completely changed coordinators. Now you got Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And let's see how that goes. This could definitely be a playoff preview. This might not be the only time that we see these two teams face off. because I think the Packers are going to be a really good team this year, and they're going to be battling it out with the Lions. But we could see these teams play in the playoffs again. And the last time these two teams met was a couple years ago. We did see Jordan Love for a little bit in that game because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. That was on that Sunday night game. Now let's see, what it's like here in Brazil. See what that environment's like, too. Because that crowd's going to be really into it. But also a reminder, the game is on Peacock. So make sure that you have it, or if you know someone that has it, to borrow it, like, my family's going to be doing tonight because my cousin has it. So that's how they will be watching the game tonight. I'll be out for this game, but I'll be locked in. Like I said, need Josh Jacobs to have a big game tonight because I started the Chiefs defense in multiple leagues last night, and yeah, did not go well. It was looking good because when they got that sack fumble, I was like, great, keep it like that. But then the Ravens they torched the defense in the second half. Lamar Jackson torched the defense in the second half. But listen, these teams are up. Show us, what you guys got now. Can you match what last night showed us? Because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to give us an encore performance like that, or give us a match a performance like that. But no, I'm curious to see how this game goes. Also, I want to bring up Matt LaFleur because I wasn't really a Matt LaFleur believer, but last year he really showed me something. Because this team looked like they were done at one point, and Jordan Love started playing well, and this team rallied. And you know what? You got to give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit in that. Because his first few years as the coach, Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback still. Now, I think Matt LaFleur helped Aaron Rodgers get those 2 MVPs. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers did it, but I think the change from McCarthy to LaFleur, LaFleur had some, you got to give him a little bit of credit for Rodgers winning those MVPs. But again, you had Aaron Rodgers. How are you going to be without Rodgers? And last year got off to a good start. Then the middle of the season they struggled, but then they really turned it around. And I got to give Matt LaFleur some credit. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. So, let's see what these teams do this year. Let's see if Jordan Love can play like he did towards the end of the year for a full year. And let's see if the Eagles can bounce back. But let me know what you guys think. So, I'm picking the Eagles. I'm going to say 30-27 is going to be the final score. I was close last night. I said 24-20. It was 27-20. I'm going to say 30-27 is the final score tonight. Eagles win in a close one. So let me know what you guys think, though. Who do you think is going to win tonight? Let me know. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help you create a super chat. Any kind of comment you have for me that I can acknowledge during the live broadcast just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. Any contribution means the world to us. Also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. Again, any contribution you can make to the show would mean a lot to us. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, We will talk about some of the big college football matchups for this weekend, as well as the early slate of games for Sunday. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to take a look at some of the top college football matchups for this weekend, as well as looking at the early slate for week 1 in the NFL. But before I get into that, we do have breaking news. I know, I just, again, always look for a way to use that. So Jalen Ramsey reached an agreement with the Dolphins on a contract extension. Their top corner, a 3-year extension worth $24.1 million per year to make him the highest paid corner in NFL history for the second time in his career. So congrats to him on getting his new contract. So let's get into some of these matchups here. So we'll start off in college football. Now, the one game, like I said, well, actually, you got 3 games today. So we have BYU and SMU. SMU is an 11.5 point favorite. We got Indiana against Western Illinois. And Indiana is a 42.5 or 42.5 point favorite. And then we got Duke and Northwestern. And Northwestern's a 2-point favorite. So those games are tonight. But some of the other matchups tomorrow, you got Pittsburgh or Pitt against Cincinnati. Michigan and Texas. Number 10 Michigan against number 3 Texas, which is a game I want to, keep an eye on. Penn State against Bowling Green. Akron against Rutgers. Rutgers is a 22.5 point favorite. But yeah, I want to keep an eye on that Michigan-Texas game because Texas, they blew out their opponent last week. Colorado State, they won 52-0. Michigan's offense struggled against Fresno State. They pulled away towards the end, but their offense struggled. This is a home game for Michigan, but I like Texas in this game. The offense for Michigan really didn't impress me, but we'll see if they play better tomorrow. Georgia is taking on Tennessee Tech, and they're a 54.5 point favorite. Iowa and Iowa State. That's later on in the day. Iowa's a 3-point favorite. Utah and Baylor. Also, Colorado, that's another game I want to keep an eye on as well. Wake Forest and West Virginia. Kansas and Illinois. It's so many games. I'm trying to find Colorado. Also, NC State and Tennessee. NC State is a 10-point underdog. Yeah, Colorado and Nebraska. That's the game I want to also keep an eye on tomorrow. Nebraska is a 7-point favorite. So, some good games on the slate. Boise State and Oregon. And then USC is taking on USU. So, but yeah, some of the games I want to pay attention to: Colorado and Nebraska, Texas and Michigan, NC State, their matchup against Tennessee. Adam Bernstein in the chat says, "I think Quinn Ewers will have a great game." All right, we'll see. That's a tough Michigan defense he's going up against, but yeah, I like Texas in that game. We also got a subscriber, Game Live 24/7, and he commented in the chat, Otani or Ruth. Well, this is a football show, but look, I didn't see Babe Ruth play, but I'm still going to give it to him. And you might say, well, you're biased because you see what's in the background. Doesn't matter. We're going with the Babe on that one. So, now let's get to the NFL games. So, let's start off with Pittsburgh and Atlanta. So, there was some news that broke yesterday that Russell Wilson is still dealing with that calf injury, and he's limited in practice. So, it's possible that we could see Justin Fields play week 1. Now, again, nothing's been made official yet, but that calf injury has been bothering Russell Wilson, this for a while now. And it seems like it's not going away. And it's one of those injuries that's tricky. So, again, it's possible that we could see Justin Fields. Yeah, this is a tough game to pick. Right now, the line moved, so Atlanta's a 3-point favorite. Line was at 2.5. I'm going to still lean towards the Steelers. I don't feel great about it, but that's what I'm leaning towards. And it has to do with their defense and Mike Tomlin. But the way the offense looked in the preseason, not really encouraged by what I've seen. So I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh and take them with the points, but would not surprise me if Atlanta came out on top. The Bills and the Cardinals. Cardinals are 6.5-point underdogs. There's people that are very optimistic about the Cardinals. And the Bills went through some changes this offseason. No more Stephon Diggs. Lost some other guys as well. I think the Bills win this game, but I think it's going to be competitive. I think the Cardinals are going to keep it within the number. Kyler Murray playing a full season now. I like the Cardinals to cover, but I think the Bills win outright. So, that's my pick there. Then, another interesting game, Titans and the Bears. So this line opened up at 4.5. Now it's down to 3.5. I actually like the Titans to cover. I think the Bears still win, but I don't know. I mean, this is Caleb Williams' first game. He's going to struggle. And, you know, what a lot of people are talking about is the physicality of the Tennessee Titans. And that, you know, that might rough up Caleb Williams a little bit. And, you know, very well could. But yeah, we don't really know what Caleb Williams is going to be just yet in the NFL. I mean, I think he's going to be very good. I have him winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Same thing with Will Levis. We don't know what Will Levis is either. I mean, the Titans, they went through a lot of changes. You know, we'll see if DeAndre Hopkins ends up playing. But you brought in Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard. You know, they really tried to improve this team. Now you got a new coach as well. I'm going to say the Titans keep it within the number, but I'm going to say the Bears win. Then, Patriots and the Bengals. We're still waiting on official word if Jamar Chase is going to play. I hope he does. The line opened up at 9.5. It's down to 8.5. I don't know. I mean, I like the Bengals to win and win by a couple of scores here. I think they're really going to bring it. With the Patriots' offensive line struggling the way it was in the preseason, I think the Bengals will take advantage of that. Now, the Bengals typically get off to slow starts. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think they're going to win by a couple of scores and they'll cover the number. It was at 9.5. Now it's down to 8.5. I like the Bengals to cover here in this spot. So give me the Bengals. 3 more games here in the early slate. Texans and Colts. Colts are now 3-point underdogs. This line started out at 1.5. So I don't know what changed. But, you know, there's some people picking the Colts to upset the Texans. And I get it. You know, it could definitely happen. The Colts, you know, I think are going to be a good team this year. Full year of Jonathan Taylor. Full year of Anthony Richardson, you hope. But I like the Texans. I like the Texans here. I picked C.J. Stroud for MVP. So, I'm going with the Texans. Got the Jaguars and the Dolphins up next. Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites. This is the GSMC Bowl because we had that big Trevor Lawrence Tua debate. And, you got to go with, I'm going with the Dolphins here in this spot. I'm going with the Dolphins. You know, the Jags, you hope they're better this year. Trevor Lawrence plays well. I mean, excuse me. Both guys got their new contracts, the 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. I think the Dolphins with their firepower on offense, it's going to be hard for the Jags to keep up. So I'm going to take the Dolphins. And then finally, probably, you know, not the best game of the slate. Got the Saints and the Panthers. Saints are favored by 4 points. You know, let's see, you know, if all the moves that the Panthers made paid off and, you know, Bryce Young has a better season. But I don't know. In New Orleans, I mean, I don't feel great about this because the Saints were a frustrating team to pick last year. I'm going to go with the Saints, though. Say the Saints win and cover that number. They win by at least 7. But we'll see. And then actually, finally, we got one more game, and it's the game I'm going to be at. How could I forget? Best for last. Got the Giants and the Vikings. Giants are 1.5-point underdogs. Look, got to pick the Giants. But it will not surprise me if the Vikings win this game, because I think the Vikings have a better team. But they got Sam Darnold playing quarterback, so who knows? So yeah, those are my picks for the early slate. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you have winning these games? How do you see them playing out? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, I will then preview the late slate, the late window games. We'll talk about Browns, Cowboys, and the other games as well. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to get into the late window games. The Sunday night game is the final part of the show, but, the 4 late window afternoon games. I mean, depending on where you're watching these games. I mean, you could be on the West Coast and these are, early afternoon games, but whatever. So, let's get into these games. So, we'll start off with the headliner that I have here, and that is the Cowboys and the Browns. So, right now, the Browns are 2.5-point favorites. And this is an interesting game. You got Deshaun Watson coming back from injury, last year had the season-ending, shoulder injury after that big win against the Ravens, and Deshaun Watson has not lived up to the contract that the Browns gave him. He just hasn't. And so this is a big year for him. Now the Browns, they adjusted his contract, they cleared up a lot of cap space. So, at least that helps them, but they want to see Deshaun Watson go out there and play well. And he just hasn't played like the quarterback that he, like the quarterback he was in Houston. So, like I said, this is a big year for him. He does have weapons on this team. Amari Cooper, they adjusted his contract. They brought in Jerry Jeudy. David Njoku had a big year last year. Now, a lot of his numbers come from playing well with Joe Flacco. But and Njoku's a good player. But this is a big game for the Browns, I feel like. It's at home against the Cowboys. They got the Cowboys coming in. Amari Cooper facing off against his former team. How is he going to look? So, the Cowboys, I think it's going to be a tough game for the Cowboys, honestly. Because they were not a good road team last year. And, how are they going to be able to run the football in this game? Who's going to separate themselves from the pack as the lead guy? I think that's something that they're going to struggle with, is running the football. And, you brought back Zeke, and, you brought in Dalvin Cook. I keep saying brought back. You brought in Dalvin Cook. But you still got Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdle. Who's separating themselves from the pack as the lead runner? Who's going to be that guy? Who is it? I don't know. But they're going to have to deal with a very good defense right off the bat. Their rookie left tackle is going to be going up against Myles Garrett, or one of their rookie tackles. So that's not going to be easy. I think this is a tough game for the Cowboys. I really do. Their defense, I think, will play well. I mean, I think Deshaun Watson is going to turn the ball over. But I also think Dak's going to turn the ball over, too. I think this game's going to be close, but I kind of like the home team. I like the Browns in this game. I know people are taking the Cowboys, and rightfully so. CeeDee Lamb's going to be playing in this game. Figure he's going to make plays. But I like the Browns here. I think this is going to be a competitive game, but I'm going to say the Browns win and cover the spread. Again, it's 2.5. Started out at 1, but now it's at 2.5. I like the Browns here to cover the number and win a close one. So give me the Browns. Then the 3 other games here. So we'll start off with the Raiders and the Chargers. So Jim Harbaugh will make his debut as the head coach of the Chargers. And yeah, this one's a tough game to pick. Because look, I think the Raiders are going to be a competitive team this year. I think the Chargers are also going to be a competitive team, much improved from last year. One of the things that I said this is, how is the Chargers defense going to look? Because their defense was not good last year. And with Harbaugh taking over, how does it look? Because they got good players on that side of the ball, but they just not a good unit last year. Also, I mean, the offense went through a lot of changes. How is Justin Herbert going to look in this new system? I mean, you got the Ravens backfield with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and then, you got a bunch of new pass catchers. The most experienced pass catcher on your team right now is Joshua Palmer. Well, in terms of chemistry. Because I know they have DJ Chark. I think DJ Chark's been in the league longer than Joshua Palmer. But, and Quinn Johnson, how is he going to look in his second year? It's going to be interesting. But I'm going to say the Chargers win. They're a 3-point favorite. I'm going to say they cover the number here. But who knows? This is Antonio Pierce's full year now. First full year as the head coach of the Raiders. How is he going to look? Gardner Minshew is starting. And, we'll see. But I'm going to take the Chargers. This is a tough game. Subject to change, but I'm going to go with the Chargers here with the better quarterback. Then we move on. Broncos and Seahawks. Seahawks are 6-point favorites. Bo Nix will be making his debut as the starting quarterback for the Broncos. This is a tough spot. This is a tough spot for the rookie. Mike McDonald's making his coaching debut for the Seahawks. There's no more Pete Carroll. It's a big number, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I think either way, like the Seahawks, I think are winning, but it's a big number. Favored by 6. Line started at 4.5. Now it's at 6. I like the Seahawks. I'm going to take them in this spot to win and cover the spread. But it's again, that's a big number. That is a big number. All right, so now final game here in this segment that we'll preview, and then the next segment we'll do the Sunday night game, and that is the Washington Commanders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 3.5-point favorites. This one, again, kind of going back and forth with. But you know what? I'm going to take the Commanders with the points. I think they'll cover the number. I don't know if they're going to win outright, but I'm going to pick them to at least cover the number. This is a game that I could see being close, but the Bucs still winning. Jaden Daniels making his debut as the starting quarterback for the Commanders. Obviously, the Buccaneers, they brought back everybody. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Antoine Winfield Jr., Levante David. So how is Baker going to look in year 2? And there's no more Dave Canales. Now he's the head coach of the Panthers. So, curious to see how year 2 in Tampa goes for Baker. Again, I hope, more success is on the way for Baker with everything that he's been through the last couple of years. But I like the Bucs to win, but I'll say the Commanders cover the number. This game is going to be close. So, I got the Chargers, the Seahawks, the Browns, and the Commanders. Those are my picks for the late window games. So we do have one more game to preview, and that is the Lions and the Rams. So we will get into that when we come back from our final break. But let me know what you guys think, though, about these games. How do you see them shaping out? So, when we come back, that is what we will do. We will preview the Rams and the Lions. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to get into the final game that we are going to preview on the slate, and that is the Lions and the Rams. And that was a game that was very entertaining last year in the playoffs, one of the best playoff games from last year. And Yeah, so this will be the Sunday night matchup. And I don't know. I like the Rams in this one. I think the Rams are gonna pull it off and upset the Lions here. Now, I could be wrong. Because the Lions are a really good team. But the Rams could have won that game. No, they only lost that game by a point. Now, there's gonna be no more Aaron Donald. We know that. And that's something to keep an eye on throughout the season, how they deal with that. But I've said, Sean McVay is a good coach, and I feel like they're going to figure it out. They'll be okay. As long as the offense, plays like it did last year, because you saw when Matthew Stafford was healthy, and, the young guys like Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp, of course, coming back from injury as well. When they were all clicking, that offense was one of the best offenses in football. And, if Stafford continues to play like that, like the Matthew Stafford that we're accustomed to seeing, the Rams are going to win games. And again, it's funny because, I have the Lions going to the Super Bowl, but I got them losing here. Look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not it's not the end of the world. They'll be okay. But I just think in this spot here, I got the Rams winning. So, right now, Lions are 3.5-point favorites, and it stayed that way. And on CBS, the public, 62% are on the Rams with the spread. So maybe I should take the Lions. And at least on CBS, minus 3.5, the Lions are plus 100. So it's almost like they want you to take the Rams with the 3.5, which is interesting. So maybe I might have to change. No, I don't know. I'm sticking with it. I hope, for fantasy purposes, Puka Nacua has a big game. I also do have Jake Bates, the UFL kicker that the Lions signed, that was making all those 60-yarders, so I hope he has a big game as well. But yeah, I'm going to say that the Rams went outright. And again, if that's what ends up happening, it's not the end of the world for the Lions. It'd just be one game. It'd be disappointing. But, I got to see Stafford get revenge against his former team. But I just find it funny how, we saw Peyton Manning face off against his former team, the Colts. He loses. Stafford last year in the playoffs loses to the Lions. Tom Brady beats the Patriots, of course, when they played it a few years ago now. That was back in 2021. So, yeah, I think Stafford will get him this time. And I got the Rams making the playoffs, so, I want them to get up to a good start, prove me right. I think a lot of teams have the Rams making the playoffs. So, yeah, no, it should be fun. Look, week 1 got off to such a great start. And I think this is a great game to end off our Sunday. I know some people are like, well, we just got this. Couldn't they have chosen anything else? I guess, but it's still going to be a good game, right? So, Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this game. This game I'll be locked in for. Should be home by the time. Should be home before this game even starts. Coming back from the Giant game. Hopefully the Giants are coming off of a win there. But yeah, I mean, you got playmakers all over the place here. I told you about the Rams playmakers, but Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery for the Lions, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. This game's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, no, let me know what you guys think, though, about that game. Who do you have winning? Again, I think either way it's going to be a competitive game. But, we'll see who comes out on top. But yeah, no, it should be a fun weekend. This is our second of 5 days of football in a row. Last night with the opener, tonight the Brazil game, tomorrow full slate of college football, Sunday all day NFL, and then Monday night got Jets 49ers, which I will preview on Monday. But yeah, week 1 got off to a great start. And let's see what tonight's game brings. And let's see what kind of wackiness we get over the weekend. But yeah, football's back. I mean, I'm just so excited. But the other thing too is, I keep saying this, hopefully by Monday, this cold that I have is gone. It's been a week. And, you hear it in my voice. It's like, it's like, man, this kid is crying. I mean, my eyes are shining. Guys are probably thinking I'm doing all this crying. It's because I'm emotional that, football's back. It's been a long off season. I'm so emotional over being back. And also I'm emotional because, the Yankees have been really disappointing me as of late. And they're in Chicago today. They're playing against the Cubs. So, and they haven't played in Wrigley since 2017. But yeah, tonight's game though, back to football, Packers Eagles, gonna be locked in for that. I really want to see if Jordan Love can repeat what he did last year. Now I think he will, but he's got to go out there and prove it. And then Jalen Hurts, the people are, on him a little bit for his performance towards the end of the year. How is he going to prove the doubters wrong, And the running backs. How's Barkley going to look? How's Jacobs going to look? Should be a fun game. And it's, like I said, it's going to be a fun weekend. Going to Giants-Vikings. We'll see what that brings. Really hope the Giants, put on a good show and they'll be wearing those uniforms. Which was really the primary reason why I wanted to go to the game, was to see them in those uniforms. I just hope they play well. That's what I'm hoping for. Don't embarrass me. I want to be I want to be happy. I mean, regardless, I'll be fine. Like, if the Giants lose, so be it. It is what it is. I've seen a lot of losing from them over the last few years. Well, even longer than that. That you're used to it. But let's hope that they're on an upward trajectory if you're a Giant fan. And this is one of the games that I think they could actually win. There's a lot of games on the schedule where you're like, probably not going to win that game. So let's see what the Giants do. Again, it's going to be fun going with friends, and my parents will be there as well. So it should be a good time. Tailgating, of course, having a cheeseburger at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's tailgating. But yeah, it should be good. And, looking forward to it. And hopefully, my team bails me out because already, as GMs of my fantasy teams, I'm off to a good start. I'm already losing by like 50 points in one league because the person I'm playing against had Lamar, Rashid Rice, and Harrison Butker. So already I'm down like 60 to like 11 because I had Kelsey, who didn't really have a big game, and I started the Chiefs defense. So yeah, already off to a great start. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Make sure to give all the other shows some love, like I always say. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be fun. And, yeah. So, that is all the time that we have for today. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast. Brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the games this weekend. Enjoy your weekend in general, whatever you're doing. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna